Burnett here, Taste Life Nutrition, streaming live on KUHSdenver.com. This is Taste Life Nutrition Radio, where our goal is to have a ton of fun, is to bring you truth about health and wellness and all of the goodness that's out there that people are, gotta turn my phone off, the people are out there doing to bring goodness, to serve others, to help us all enjoy life and be healthy and be well, live large, and just live a beautiful life. I'm rambling a little bit because I'm super excited today. I'm actually always super excited about every guest that I have, but this is going to be a really fun show because we have the amazing Meghann Conter, who's the CEO of the Dames, which is the most unique and amazing international networking, women's networking group you can imagine. And when I tell people this, it's like they're like, okay, what do? Give out a bunch of cards? Which of course it's not really like that. But, when you do networking, that's kind of the thing, is you give cards and you do stuff and you want to, you want people to come to you, give me your business. And this is not that. And this has become, I would say, an international phenomenon, and it is the coolest thing, and we're going to really dig into it. But Meghann, thank you for being you and for doing all of the amazing things that you do for us ladies out there. So thank you. I appreciate being here.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so thrilled. I'm ecstatic to be here. And yes, we're going to talk about how all that old networking BS is no longer applicable and should just go away.
It's true. It's true.
Dodo bird.
Yeah, I love it. And we're going to have so much fun. But first, as always, what do? So we start the show with gratitude, because gratitude can change the world. And if we change if we come into our days feeling grateful for whatever it is, maybe it's your dog, maybe it's the fact you have a home to live in, maybe it's the fact that you have food to eat, maybe it's the fact that you can change the world with an amazing networking group. It's all of the things, but we all have something to be grateful for, and that's what we want to start our show with. Meghann, what are you grateful for?
I am most grateful for having quit drinking alcohol 4.5 years ago as of November 1st, 2017. That is what I am most grateful for today. And, also being able to see the gray areas in life and get them out of my way. Awesome.
Well, I love that. And that is really a big part of today's show. We all have these amazing stories of where we are now, but really what's amazing in the story is where we came from to get to where we are now, to get healthy and to be able to serve people the way that we are meant to serve, the reason we're here. And so I would say, gosh, I'm grateful for, what I'm grateful for? we have this home it's a great home, but there are things about it that we want to change if we wanted to change for years. And so we're taking out all the carpet and we're putting in these big 2x4 tiles. They're huge and they're heavy. They're like 26 pounds a piece. Anyway, I know.
You're getting your workout while you're laying them.
So we looked into having contractors do the work for us, and it was outrageous. And we're like, we're going to do it ourselves. And so that's what we've been doing on the weekends for a couple of months, and we're still doing. And we have made big strides, and it's so pretty and kind of modern and clean and really fun. And I'm grateful for the partnership with my husband, that we actually have the ability to do this together, and that we can still live together, and that we're going through it and getting it done, and we're making the changes that we want to make in our home. So
you know what's funny about that is that my husband and I have taken on nearly the same project in our house.
Really?
We've hated our carpet for years.
Yep.
We're finally at this point where we said the same thing. It was like, no, we're not going to spend all that extra on a contractor. we've bought this amazing vinyl flooring and we are putting it in ourselves on the weekends. And
Yeah.
we too are so grateful to be able to be in good physical health to do this and not kill each other.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It is. It's an amazing feeling, and it's such an accomplishment when you're learning how to do it, and the cuts and the things and the angles, and it's this analytical thing that you've got to have a little bit. My husband's much more analytical than I am, thankfully. But it is, it's fun, and we're just having a great time, and I'm just excited to have it done. So anyway, grateful for a good husband and for new stuff in the house,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, so let's dig in a little bit. The way I always like to start is, talking about you, who you are, why you're where you are, what motivates you, what excites you, what moves you, and that you have a lot of history that has brought you to this amazing place where you have, how many hundreds of people are in your group at this point?
Almost 500.
Almost 500. Okay. And we really want to dig into that. But what got you to where you are? What brought this idea to your head? I have always wanted to know that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you want me to answer the who am I and all that
Yeah.
first, or what brought this idea to my head?
You choose the order that makes the most sense.
Okay. So it was a dark and stormy night, March 19th, 1979, and I was born. This is going to take about 17 hours. Are you ready? Just kidding.
Ready.
So I had a very, I'll just say, unfortunate 6-year stint in corporate. It was not at all a fit for me. In fact, this weaves into the story about gray area drinking, but if it wasn't for the social aspect of the people that I worked with at the places that I worked, and the corporate card that allowed us to go out to the bars almost every night, that was the only enjoyable part, or what I thought was enjoyable part about my first years. But anyways, in 2008, end of 2008 was when I was laid off from my last marketing job, the beginning of the housing recession, and that was when I was, the universe put my first gift right in front of me, which was me meeting a bunch of entrepreneurs who suggested that I start my own business in marketing consulting. So years and years morphed and changed my business, had 5 different business names, really morphing between social media management, social media strategy, and then into branding and marketing strategy, where I really landed on the people that I'm here to impact. It became very clear to me that when I learned that only 2% of female-owned businesses ever get to the 7-figure mark, and when I really saw how huge of missions women have, that I was determined to help more women get to that 7-figure mark. And in the beginning, it was really working with my clients one-on-one to transform the branding and marketing of their business so that they could really communicate who they were and what they were here to achieve and accomplish. We could package, price, and position them in a way that would allow them to achieve their epic missions. And then I could have the rest of my team help, amplify that, put all of that messaging and everything out into the world. And I loved the work that I did because it was very impactful on me and on my clients. And during that time, earlier on, before I started getting focused in that area, I was networking a lot to grow my marketing business, especially when I was in social media. And I did it extremely ineffectively. I did it the old school way, where it was like, I'll just accumulate as many business cards as I can, which also means accumulating a ton of business card stab wounds, because people just shoving their business card in my face to try to get me to buy whatever they had. And then other times, I had a lot of great friendships that I developed, but it never really translated into anything for me. So I was spending a lot of time, I was drinking a lot of wine, I was drinking a lot of coffee, and I was not really getting anywhere except for having stacks of business cards and maybe selling a workshop here and there, or filling a workshop here and there. Not anything great. So in 2014, I kind of had a breakdown, and I was like, I've got to figure out how to be more efficient with my networking, with my marketing, with everything that I'm doing for my own business and my own brand. And I was also like really going through at that time, the throes of drinking to fit in socially. And so basically in 2014, I like to say that I created and put myself into the Networking Witness Protection Program, where I devised it, and I just put myself in a quiet space to say, all right, I need to reimagine networking. Because if I'm feeling this way, and I'm talking to a lot of friends who are feeling this way, there's something that's off, and I really want to change that. So like any good entrepreneur, I used my marketing background, my branding background, and I came out and devised this whole new way of networking, which was based on the power partner concept. So in the Dames, you don't come into our organization to hunt for and find your end client, because that's what creates this low vibrating energy at a lot of networking events that gives networking its bad reputation. It's basically a place for you to go and try to sell your stuff. Well, who wants to do that?
Right.
You get to a certain point where it's exhausting because you're just being constantly sold to. So the Power Partner system is really all about getting people connected to their best, most strategic partners who can open doors for each other, to new clients, to thought partnerships, to masterminding challenges, to celebrating wins, to developing business bestie relationships that last for years and years and sometimes lifetimes. And that was really what I was passionate about and wanted to create out in the world. The other thing that I was passionate about at that time was I have got to create something fun in networking, because it is boring to go to most networking events and say your elevator pitch 50,000 times and just watch grass grow. That is what so many things, so many events and networks are about. So we started doing Denver Dames events here in 2015, where we've always had our reverse mullet approach networking, where we do comedy in the front, connection, and then inspiration in the back. And then as we grew here locally, we started to outgrow our spaces. And then in 2017, when I got really clear and also quit drinking, I had the full-fledged download of what the Dames was going to become and the international organization that it was going to be, rebranded from Denver Dames to the Dames, built our online global networking platform, and then started launching chapters in other markets in 2018, and which we've continued to grow. And so, it's actually kind of a funny little slit in here, which is when I was looking at this concept of building an online networking platform globally in 2017, I was kind of questioning myself. I'm like, really, who's going to want to network online? It doesn't really make sense. Everybody loves networking in person. They're all obsessed with in-person everything. And I just knew that I had to trust my intuition on this one, and I built it. And I didn't really know why until I closed my marketing business 12/31/19. Pandemic hit 2 months later, 3 months later. And I had an online global networking platform that people could join from all over the world. Then I knew why.
Amazing.
So everything has changed for me based on removing the gray areas in my life and listening to my intuition, following its words, following its guidance, even when it seems like it's totally wonky, and why the heck would I be doing that? And it has brought me to such a beautiful place.
I love that so much. I want to share a little history of my own here with the Dames. Is I was brought into the Dames just before the pandemic hit, and I didn't really know anything about it. But the interesting thing is, this show I was doing every other week, and I'll tell you that I was panicky every week, thinking, who am I going to have on the show? I don't know a lot of people. I have this amazing show. There's so much I want to share. There's so much I want to talk about. I want to not just be me. I want to have other people. And I reached out to the Dames, to the Facebook group, and said, this is what I have. This is what I want to do. And I would love for introductions to anybody who wants to be a part of this show, and let's have conversations and see if it's a fit. And it's because of the Dames that I have grown my business. I've grown this radio show. We're every week now, and I am booked out through August, I believe, and just continually talking and learning and meeting people. And these are people, I mean, I've had people on here from all over the world who I've met because of the dames. And the most amazing thing is that nobody wants to, I mean, everybody wants to exchange cards, right? We got to have contact information, but that's really as far as it goes. It's always the, what can I do to help? Who can I introduce you to? What is it that you're doing? And what are your problems and maybe I can help you? What are you dealing with in business and maybe I can help you? It's like nothing I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I can give all the credit to the members believing in the culture and living it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just so much fun. And when I talk about it, it's still like people don't really get it until they're in it.
Yeah, so I'm fully aware that I'm creating a full paradigm shift in the way of networking.
Yeah.
And which, as you know, in the world of health, paradigm shifts take a long time, right? They take time, they take dedication, they take saying the same thing 500,000 times, and they take the willingness to have periods of halt, and then have periods of acceleration, and then have periods of halt and acceleration. And that is what creating a movement and creating a paradigm shift is all about. So yeah, it's interesting how that's why we've started doing roundtables, so that women can come in and at least experience a little bit of what power partnering is. And like you said, just the willingness of dames to come forth and say, hey, let's jump on a quick call and I'll help you through whatever this thing is that you're facing. You don't have to sign up with me to, join my program for the next 12 months. Like, let's just jump on and see what we can do, how we can help each other. And that is really the community that we've created of abundant thinkers who have nothing but generosity and time, and not that they have like an abundance of time.
Sure, right.
We all have the same 24 hours and we're all very busy, but they're generous with their time, they're generous with their knowledge and their hearts. Yeah. And that's the most beautiful thing.
It really is. It truly is. So I want to back up a little bit because you kind of, we grazed over it a little bit, but I think the way that it was supposed to be. But a lot of this show and a lot of the shows that we do are really about how, it's interesting. And I say this a lot, but the show has morphed a bit in a good way. I want to talk about, it's all health and wellness, but health and wellness is so broad. And I have had only entrepreneurs on the show, unintentionally, but I love it that it's been that way. It's been a lot of women. But our health and wellness is who we are, how we navigate, how we think, how our mind works, how our body feels, the food, then of course the food that we eat, and the movement and the stress and the traumas, and all of this is so involved. And so in order for probably most everybody who's an entrepreneur or who's alive, in order to get where you are, you go through some junk and it builds you up. It may not feel like building up at the time, but it builds you up. And so a big part of this show is something that I had not heard the term before, but I think many, many, many people relate to it, is the gray area drinking. And then you have taken that also into, what are the gray areas of life that need to be removed? So I want to kind of dive in a little bit to sort of how you discovered that you were a gray area drinker. What got you to the point? What was your, and real quick, I want to let you really dig into this, but the gray area drinking it's not necessarily alcoholism, but it's a place where you are maybe drinking more than you should, maybe doing the blackouts, maybe you don't drink at all during the week, but you're drinking too much on the weekends and you want to stop, and sometimes you do, and then you go back to it. So it's this interesting place where, especially people who are social and are networking and trying to build businesses and all these things, drinking is so social. So I'm rambling, but want to get your story and how all of this came, where you came from with that. Does that make sense? Uh-oh. Hold on. I can't hear you.
That was probably me. Did it now?
Okay.
Now?
Yep, we're good. Okay.
I'll try to give the shortest version possible. So, without, with also explaining all this because it's a lot. But I would start back, let's say early on when I was starting my own business. It's like I said, in my corporate career, it was a lot of drinking. There was a lot of, that was like the social activity of, especially the banking world when I was in there, was everybody goes out after work and drinks on the corporate card. And it's extremely embedded into our professional society, drinking. And especially drinking with your team, companies providing alcohol at functions and events, companies taking their employees out for dinner and copious amounts of alcohol. It is very much embedded into the American culture from early ages on, obviously. You know, we know about drinking in college. Yeah. And I just thought for a long time, I'm just engaging with alcohol the same way all of my peers are, the same way all of my, basically all of my peers are. And so there can't be anything wrong with that because it's what everybody's doing, of course.
Right.
And then, like I said, when it was in the early days of my business and networking, it was just what everybody was doing. So let's have a couple glasses of wine, which turns into sometimes, even if it's on a weekday and it's 2 glasses of wine 3 nights a week, that's a lot. And then you go on to the weekends when I'm out partying with my friends and it goes into a little bit more. And I want to say that something that really stopped me in my tracks was when I went in for a physical and my doctor told me, when I had written down that the most that I drink in a 24-hour period was 3 drinks, which was a total lie, she had said, we need to talk about your alcohol consumption. And I was like, because I have 3 drinks in a day sometimes? And she was like, actually, if women have more than, and I don't remember the exact amount of ounces, but basically more than 2 drinks in a 24-hour period, you're considered to be over drinking. You're considered to be moving into the territory and the zone of drinking too much. Like that is where you start to get into the type area. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like thinking about my friends, thinking about my other people in my communities, and just thinking about how that is like nothing. Right. And so that was one of those moments that just kind of hit me. But what I really started dealing with in 2015 and 16 was, after going out with my friends on the weekends, I would hit Monday and I would feel exhausted, I would feel depressed, and I would feel anxious. Yeah. And my body was like trying to process from the weekend and trying to like come back online after Sunday fun day, or after, going out on Saturday night, or even on Friday night. And I was just like, man, this is, I'd heard it, of course, when you get older, this is what starts happening, but I'm thinking, I'm in my late 30s, it's not like this should be affecting me this much. So I was always blaming it on myself, saying, I must not know how to control myself, I must not know, whatever, and I would quit for periods of time. So I'd quit drinking for like 3 months and I'd feel better, or I'd start to feel better, but then there would be an occasion and I'd have to, go to a cousin's birthday party or go on a trip and I'd be drinking again, and I would cut it out so that it would only be on weekends, but it didn't really matter because I was still dealing with that yo-yo back and forth. Yeah. And at that time I met a woman named Jolene Park, and she has a fantastic TEDx talk on YouTube.
I saw it.
And it talks about gray area drinking. And it's really, I met with her, she is a friend, and I met with her at that time, and she was like, you could just quit drinking. And I was like, well, why would I want to do that? I'm not an alcoholic. She's like, yeah, you're a gray area drinker. You don't have to be an alcoholic to quit drinking. Is it enhancing your life? And I was like, well, it's fun. I have fun with my friends. And she's like, okay, what about afterwards? And I was like, I feel like crap for several days. Okay, are you always in a great state or a great place with your husband? No, we actually fight a lot. Okay, are you always doing the things that you're intending to do in your business? Well, no, I'm actually not really all that motivated all the time. And so I just started investigating and looking at all the areas of my life to see, am I just defending alcohol, which I find happens a lot.
Sure, yeah.
And indeed I was. I was totally defending alcohol. I was making excuses to myself, telling myself that, well, I can't possibly fit in, I can't possibly hang out with my friends. I can't, like, what am I gonna do if I don't drink? Like, it's everywhere. It's all in the culture of everything. I'll be the weirdest person around. I'm the life of the party. I can't do this. So it took me, you know, a good year of significant yo-yoing back and forth between, do I just try to figure out how to moderate, which is for most people total BS, or do I completely cut it out? And it was October 31st, 2017, I was sitting on a rooftop bar with my cousin and some friends, and I was dressed up, I was freezing, and I had this drink in my mouth, in my hand, and I took a sip, and it tasted like dirt. And I was like, I'm just done. Like, I'm just done. I don't want this. I handed it to my cousin. I didn't even take a sip, and I left. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but it wasn't until January when I was sitting at a sober event with Annie Grace, who wrote a book called This Naked Mind, which is amazing. And the woman sitting next to me said, you know, have you read Annie's book, and what's your journey with alcohol? And I'm like, that's a weird question. I don't know what that means. And what have you decided about it? And I was like, you know, I don't know that I've decided anything. I'm just kind of in a period of questioning the gray area of drinking, and I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do. And my intuition spoke to me very loud and clear right at that moment and said, you are done. Wow. Like, you are done. And so then I spent the next several months really unraveling what that meant. Reading Annie Grace's book was really helpful. Since then I've read many others. Quit Like a Woman and We Are the Luckiest are at the top of my list. And I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about our society. I learned a lot about the alcohol industry, and I learned a lot about our brains and our bodies and how detrimental alcohol really is on our whole systems. And I thought, and I'm totally blanking on her name, but the woman who wrote Quit Like a Woman calls it poison. And it really helped me once I had that, because I could be like, okay, would I want to drink rat poison? No. Why the hell why would I want to continue with this? And it took me a good year and a half to really get to the point. Thankfully, my husband quit a month before me, by the way.
Nice. That's always helpful, right?
I have other friends who have quit without their husbands quitting, and it's been a much more difficult journey. But it took me months of really realizing that gray areas deplete you. They depleted me a lot. They depleted me of my joy. They depleted me of my reserves. They grayed out my intuition. There were times when I couldn't even hear that voice that is very clear to me now. I couldn't hear it because I was dulled by drinking. And it grayed out a lot of the signs that I needed to see that there was that drinking was a big block in my pathway, and that was what was keeping me from living my biggest dreams. And yes, I had Denver Dames at the time, and yes, it was growing, and yes, my marketing business was doing well, but like ultimately I was just kind of not doing great in anything. Not doing great in my marriage, not doing great in my health. And so during that period of time of removing that rock, I really, like, all of the challenges hit me at first, right? Of what is it to feel your feelings fully? What is it to remove all the proteins that your body creates to digest and process alcohol? What is it to like have a whole different way of eating at this point in time, because I didn't crave the crappy foods anymore. So not only did I quit drinking, but a few months later I quit eating gluten and dairy, and it was just
nice.
I started feeling like a whole new person, but it was also like I was dumping toxins into my body and eliminating them, and I was you know, I was going through a lot psychologically and spiritually at the time, because I really had to realize that I hadn't known who I was. I hadn't spent a lot of time figuring out who I was and what I wanted and really where I was headed, until I removed that giant gray area from my life and started looking at things very intensely. And I think that is why a lot of people don't do it. don't quit drinking when they're a gray area drinker, because it's really hard. When you're an alcoholic and someone tells you it's a matter of life or death, or you're court mandated to quit drinking, or whatever, it's like that hard stop of like, you've got to stop this is one thing, then your own inner choice, like, this is not working for me,
right?
And I want to live a better life, and I don't know what that's going to look like. And I didn't go out with my friends for a good 6 months after. It was probably longer than that.
Wow.
After I quit drinking, my social life very much changed. My husband's and my relationship got so much better because we were being able to speak about things when we weren't, letting our altered state create fights. Yeah. But it changed a lot for me, and I didn't network. I was going inside for a lot of things during that period of time, and really working on myself and working on the business and working on everything else. But that was an intense period of time. Yeah.
I was doing some reading, and so much of this, and this is not everyone, but again, I think that so many people, whether they like it or not, relate. And so much of it too is, because you kind of hit the nail on the head, it's this emotional letting loose, which is a problem, that you need something to let loose emotionally. But, we, at this point too, we have gone, I saw a stat, but we have gone with the whole pandemic, which has been madness in so many ways, but people just went, either they came in and just stopped and took care of themselves like you did, or they just went way off the edge. And so in 2020, alcohol sales increased by 54% in March, and online alcohol sales were up by 477% towards the end of April compared to the year before. What? I mean, it's crazy to think that, but we have this place that we've now been put in, where we are, we have more anxiety, more frustration, more depression, more loneliness. And what are we doing if we're already in that place where we're trying to numb those feelings? We're drinking more, and we're drinking more, and we're drinking more, and we're drinking by ourselves. And so I saw that, and I knew that it went up. It's so sad, but floored when I read that stat.
Yeah.
What do you even do with that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most socially accepted drug.
Yeah, totally.
And when you look at the stats of how many deaths alcohol creates versus cocaine or heroin, you would be even more floored.
Yeah, well, it's true, and they've even gone up since the last 2 years significantly.
Right.
I think it's.
Oh, totally. And I think that what I'm most grateful for in this way of like learning about the gray area is that there's so many communities that have been created for people that are not AA. A lot of people have a lot of issues with AA and the rigidity of it, the calling yourself, labeling yourself an alcoholic for the rest of your life. There's a lot of things that just don't resonate with people, understandably. Just like networking, it's a 100-plus-year-old system that's been around, and we're trying to apply it to modern day. It's like, for God's sakes, let's innovate. But there's the Tempest community, which I think she's rebranded, Holly Whitaker. That's Quit Like a Woman, her name went. And there's so many other communities where it's women are being able to see that this whole mommy drinking culture and women drinking to, like you said, numb themselves, numb our feelings, be able to deal with life, that's a problem.
Right.
And when we really have the fact that, again, if you drink more than 2 alcoholic beverages in a 24-hour period, you are no longer a moderate drinker.
Right.
That's and yes, I understand that there are plenty of people out there who literally are one drink wonders. That's a lot of my friends. They have one drink. My mom is the same. One drink, and she is happy and good and tipsy, and that is a great moderation. But a vast majority of people that I witness, it is nowhere near that. And they think that they're drinking moderately, but when you're witnessing them have their 5th, their 6th, their 7th drink, it's like, this is the culture that we are living in, and the reality of it is stark and dreary and scary. And I'm really grateful that because I speak about my journey, I have women coming to me all the time, and men coming to me saying, I want to quit drinking. I don't know how to do this. Like, do you have any recommendations for me?
Yeah.
And how can I do this? Because I think that the more of us that jump into that courageous space, the better the world's going to be. And we're going to decrease those statistics of 4,000% increase?
477% towards the end of April online. I mean, yeah, that's one that is it's really a jaw dropper. Anyway, I think so. There are a couple of things that I want to nerd out on a little bit because I think it's super fun.
Let's nerd out.
But first, I need to take a quick break because I need to talk about our sponsor, Cellcore Biologics, Cellcore Biosciences. What is that? Talking to too many clients with autoimmune diseases, I think.
Totally.
My brain. So, Cellcore Biosciences, amazing, innovative company, and the products that they sell to practitioners, only to practitioners. So you have to find someone who uses it, which is growing exponentially because they are so innovative in their approach. Their goal is truly to, so I am a practitioner. I look for the root cause. I want to find the root cause, and I want to address the root cause, and then allow the body to work on its own. And so a company like Cellcore has that in mind. So their goal is to address the mitochondrial dysfunction, the cellular dysfunction that happens when our bodies are dealing with significant toxicants that we don't know that we're dealing with. So it can be parasites, it can be worms, it can be environmental toxins, it can be the chemicals in our home, it can be mold, the list goes on, and we're so surrounded and inundated by it that it really creates a problem and brings the body down, and it's really tough on a body. And so their delivery system is what's so unique about their products and the way that they work, and they work just beautifully. I just think they're life changers. So I'm super grateful to Cellcore for what they do, what they're doing for practitioners, what they're doing for practitioners, clients, and patients. I just love it to pieces. And so you can, I think you can go to their website and you can find practitioners. And of course I am one of them. So always feel free to reach out if you have questions about it. That kind of leads me into a little bit of the nerd out, because I think it's important for people to have an understanding that so often when we have these cravings and these needs and the feeling like you have the inability to stop whatever it is, whether it's drinking or overeating or smoking or something like that. And this comes directly from that TED Talk because it was so good and so moving that I really wanted to make a point of it, because there's a lot of blame. We blame ourselves. I blame myself because I can't control my eating, or I can't control my sugar intake, or I eat even when I'm not hungry. And I say these things because this is what I hear from clients all the time. I was talking to one yesterday, and she was like, yeah, I'm not really hungry at night, but I eat anyway. And I said, okay, so why is that? And so it's an awareness of the body and what the body's telling you, because when these things happen, they're symptoms. Full-blown diseases are just a cluster of symptoms, right? And so the thing and remind me, the girl's name who did the TED Talk?
Jolene Park.
Her website, I wrote it down, is Gray Area Drinkers. Is that right? GrayAreaDrinkers.com.
Yep.
And she did a great job. But
yeah.
She's also a functional nutritionist. I was like, oh, awesome. I like her.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we have these emotions and these things and these anxieties that we don't know how to handle or we don't understand, so often, if not a lot of the times, there are many imbalances in the body, but it's because our neurotransmitters are being affected. And it's the GABA, the serotonin, the dopamine. Those are the three big ones. And I wrote down, because I think this is really important, what she said. GABA is your anti-anxiety neurotransmitter. If it's low, you're worried, you're anxious, and you ruminate on things. So many of us, I've done this, when you're sitting and your mind is just spinning and going and going and going, that's low GABA. And so what happens, you're like, I need a drink, I gotta stop it. Or I need to go smoke some weed because I gotta stop it, right? There's something, and what I always try to tell people is you gotta ask the question why. Why am I feeling this way? Why is my mind reeling? Serotonin is the antidepressant, so if it's low, you're going to be depressed, you're going to crave carbs and alcohol, and you're not going to sleep well. So you drink alcohol or whatever it might be to have fun. Dopamine is for focus and motivation, and so it's hard to, if it's low, it's hard to stay on track and hard to move forward with your goals, and so you use alcohol to connect and engage, or whatever your thing might be. And so so say you're at a networking meeting, right? Any random networking meeting where you have alcohol, and you think about your friends and your family maybe, and the reasons why they go and they're doing the networking and they're drinking, and what they're typically like, and what are their emotions like. You know, there are reasons behind it, and when you're able to support neurotransmitters, which we can do nutritionally as well as by physically going out and grounding and being in nature, and meditating and praying, but eating protein. Protein is a building block for neurotransmitters, or the amino acids, and essential fatty acids. So all of these things that we do in life that are healthy are the things that help us build our neurotransmitters and then help us to get beyond those things that are creating the problem for us, like the gray area drinking.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought that was just, I found it so interesting to put those things together, because my hope is somebody who's listening, one or all of those things, they went, oh, okay, I get it. And there's something that I can do about it.
Yeah, and what I loved about what you said was you said you encourage your clients to pause. At what point do you encourage them to pause and ask? I forgot what you said.
So it's pretty immediate, so the conversation that I had last night specifically was, we're going through what is going on day to day, what are the foods you're eating, when are you eating, why are you eating, I get as detailed as possible. It's a 2-hour meeting in my first meeting, so we're really digging in. And it was when she said, so, I go home and I eat, I'm not really hungry, but I eat, and it was tell me why. So it's immediately, let's sit back and let's think, and let's I don't want to let it pass. I want to think about it, and I want to talk about it, and I want there to be a realization and I guess that's it. It's the realization, and then we can build off of that.
Right. So it's noticing that habit that we have that's ingrained, that is in between stimulus and action. Right. So it's like we have a certain feeling or a certain thing that comes up in us, and our habit that has been formed is grab for a glass of wine, grab for a joint, grab for food, grab for more work, grab for whatever, instead of, oh, there's that stimulus again. Now what is my choice, my conscious and aware choice? That right there, that nanosecond of a period of time, is what you really get clear on and focus on when you're quitting drinking or smoking or anything. Yeah. Because you start to see, an anger management, same thing. You start to see the need to elongate the mechanism. Right. And then you get to say, okay, if I can stop that response and stop I'm grabbing for XYZ, and start looking more deeply inside and saying, okay, what is it that I actually need? What would really be helpful for me right now? Would it be to go outside for a walk? Would it be to go call a friend? This is why AA has sponsors. I mean, you're supposed to call people when you're starting to feel that, but there are so many things that we can do to break that neural pathway and say, okay, here's a new one. When I start to feel anxious at a networking event, I'm going to go ask for a soda, water, and then
not
I'm
a soda.
Go to water is what I meant I don't know why I even said soda. Club soda is what I meant to say. I'm gonna go ask for a club soda, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find, you know, somebody who looks friendly, or I'm gonna go and I'm gonna talk to the person who's hosting the event or whatever. But we have to really slow down that response, and this is what a lot of people aren't willing to do, is slow down enough to see what those micro responses are that we have created, these patterns that we've created over, you know, for me, I started drinking in college, so at 19 years old until I was 38. That's a lot of years of programming to stop, and that's, you know, we deal that with, you deal with that with eating, we deal with that with smoking, drinking, the whole 9 yards, every kind of addiction or propensity toward overconsumption is a habit that has been formed, and it's a really deep subconscious habit.
It is. It's interesting. You know, all of this is very, there's a word I'm looking for, because it's not condemning, you know, because I'm sitting here thinking, because I haven't stopped drinking. I like having my glass of wine. I love having a glass of champagne. You know, I certainly have had my periods of overdoing it, but I am much more aware over the last couple of years. I have much more of an awareness of how much, but it's still, I'm sitting here thinking, is it still too much? You know, it's definitely not daily, but what, you know, what if, you know, it's the realization, and then like you said, it's that taking the time to sit back and understand where you are and what your thoughts are. And I appreciate that, and I hope that, if anybody takes anything from this, it's that sit back and learn what your body's telling you. Understand what your body, your mind, you know, that it is, you know, it's almost the Pavlov's dog, you know. And I noticed this earlier in life, but it's okay, we're going through the week and it's Thursday's not Friday, Thursday's not Saturday, but it's Thursday. We're gonna go have a drink, you know. We're gonna go do happy hour. And so it does become this repetitive, it's just what you do. And that's what everybody does, especially when you have all your friends doing it and you have a good time. But taking a step back, and one of the things that I wanted to say is, when it comes to anxiety, one of the best things to do is to breathe. Do that deep belly breathing, because when you do the deep belly breathing, it tends to really calm that anxiety. It also boosts your neurotransmitters. Then the three things that deplete your neurotransmitters are going to be anything that are in overconsumption. It's going to be drinking, it's going to be eating, and it's going to be smoking, and these things that are more damaging. Plus, they're poisons. Yeah.
And only you know if you are over consuming.
Right.
And only you know, like, before I actually quit, I had that nagging voice in the back of my head that I just was like, shut up.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear you. And I would defend the heck out of drinking, alcohol, the whole thing. Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear you. Yes, I understand. And I was having even spiritual feathers, which started in like 2010, and then it became like a little bit more of a pat on the head, and then it became, oh my gosh, here's a giant gust of wind, and then it became a giant crack over the head. And it was these things that were messages that were being sent to me to be like, this is an area you need to look at. This is the rock that is right in front of your pathway. And just to show that, you know, if it hadn't have made a big impact on my life after I quit, it could have been a very different situation. I could have been like, all right, well, I'll just figure out how to moderate. But everything changed. The proof was everywhere. My business doubled. You know, the Danes exploded. My husband's and my relationship changed. I lost 15 pounds that I've never regained. There were so many things for me that changed, and that's not unanimous across the board, because a lot of people have issues with going to sugar after. I went to workaholism. So there was another gray area of, you know, working way too much, which is the other gray area that I've been removing in my work life. And we start to figure out what our new coping mechanisms are, you know. So for some people it's getting really deeply into spirituality, getting into meditation, getting into breath work, getting into, you know, some people they get really geeked out and nerd out like on nutrition, or you know, they start geeking out and nerding out on working out. There's a lot of positive coping mechanisms that we can realize are much better choices for us if we know that is true for us. And I just know that if anybody ever talks, like when I talk about alcohol and I talk about the reason that I quit, and if people say to me immediately, oh, well, I don't need to quit, I don't have a problem. There's nothing that I don't have a problem. There's like, I'm not the person who has a problem. You know, and they keep talking and talking. It's like, you are talking yourself out of this. It doesn't affect me at all. But if you have that feeling inside of yourself, anyone who's listening, that could be something that you might want to look into and say, okay, is this serving me? Is it helping me get to where I'm really headed into the epic mission that I have to achieve in my life? Or is it hindering me from that? Workaholism was hindering me as well.
Well,
you know, working days a week was not as good as working 4.
Yeah, well, and that was gonna kind of be a lead-in, is, you know, or my next thought or question is, you know, you talk about then your coping mechanisms and your other gray areas in life and in business. And so did you say you went to working 6 days a week? Is that what you were doing?
I was already working 6 days a week, but now it was, I could get more done because I didn't have the blurry mind. So I just continued to work Monday through Friday and Sunday. And I continued to run 2 businesses simultaneously, and I got to definite points where it was like I was getting those spiritual nods of, hey, you're working too much. Hey, you're just avoiding everything, all the feelings in another way now. Hey, you're ignoring the things that are trying to come through so that you can know the truth about yourself, and you're now just working through them because you get in work mode and your brain focuses on that, and you don't have to feel your feelings. And so it really just, I realized probably a year afterwards, probably wasn't even until 2019. It wasn't until 2019 that I realized that I had moved right into working too much, and that I had this belief that was no longer serving me, that I needed to continue doing my marketing work and growing the Dames, because I can't even remember what it was at this point. If I don't XYZ, it means XYZ about me, which no longer is true, and that's why I can't even remember it. But it wasn't until I was like, I deserve to actually work a normal work week, and I will be far more productive if I do. And I don't need to have 2 distinctly different companies that I'm running, which takes my efforts in 2 very different directions, even though some of it is parallel. The people I'm serving is parallel. And so that was like the end of 2019 when I finally allowed myself to close my marketing business and focus full-time on Dames, when I had really started only working 4 days a week at that point. That was when I'm like, I'm taking Fridays off and I'm not working on Sundays anymore.
Good for you.
And it took me a while into the pandemic to really not go back to working on Sundays, but it has been pretty systematic for me, pretty regular for me, that I don't work on Fridays and I don't work on Sundays or Saturdays, obviously, anymore. And so I'm doing a 4-day week.
Good.
And that has really shifted.
That's amazing. One of the things that I have been mostly stringent about are my weekends. I do work a full 5 days, and I probably put in, 55, 60 hours a week, and which is more than I need to do. Sometimes it's more than that. But that's beside the point. My point is, I make sure that my weekends are mine. I'm very clear that I don't work weekends unless I'm at a conference or something that I want to do, and continuing education and all the fun things. But taking that time, and I think not enough people do that. When I first started the business, it's like, there's no way I'm working weekends. And I know a lot of people do, because we're working with people who work during the week, and it can make it difficult. But I was like, this is just not happening.
Yeah, entrepreneurs really struggle with it. I mean, most entrepreneurs, and we have conversations about this in our Enriching Conversations calls in the Dames, about, you know, how women especially will defend their work hours. They'll defend, well, I do love working 50 hours a week. I love all the work that I'm doing. But if you really then sit down and ask them, what do you want most in your business right now? They're like, to find somebody to do half the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, you would say, okay, well, that's because you don't actually love doing all the things that you're doing, and that's getting those things off of your plate. We were never meant to run a whole business single-handedly. That's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
You know, so there's all these things that we have that are the defense mechanisms that we build up for any kind of propensity or addiction or, you know, overconsumption of anything. We will make excuses till the cows come home until we realize that we are making excuses and the cows still aren't home.
It was perfect.
I don't know if that made any sense, but I don't know.
It was perfect. I love it. So I think on that, I want you to talk about all of the things that the Dames offers, because this is not just a connection group. It's not just a networking group. You do a lot for the people in the group. So let's dig into that.
Yeah, so we are an organization that is completely dedicated to the needs, wants, and desires of our members, and that is women who are running 6- and 7-figure businesses and women who are in director plus roles in large companies. That is who we are, that is who we serve. We're an application-based community, and we want members to be at that threshold, and we want them to be a radical collaboration culture fit, as well as a growth mindset fit. So we are really looking for those women who, you know, they're getting it. They walk into the community and you can know that the other women who are around you are at a similar stage of business. They get you, they understand the challenges that you're facing and that you're trying to balance your family, your personal self, your health, your business, your finances, everything. And so what we've put together is a community that's organized around 4 core intentions. One, which is we have our strategic matchmaking service, and we believe in the power of power partnerships. So we help our members learn who their best power partners are. Then we do strategic matchmaking to connect them directly together so that they can make as much of an impact on each other as possible.
I got an email this morning.
Yes.
I did, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then we have our second sphere, which is all about connecting with your chapter. So we have 7 local chapters, and then we have our virtual chapter, which spans the globe. And we have events that are dedicated to really connecting those local members, because our global tenet is really what is most important. We believe that women need to connect with women all around the globe, and that you will learn far more when you expand past the 4 corners of your state, or 72 corners, depending on how complex your state is laid out. And we really believe that women who are connecting across the world they're going to have much better businesses, they're going to have more impact on the world, and they're going to have a wider breadth and knowledge of what the heck's going on in the world. Our third sphere is our events where we have connection. So it's all about deepening your connections that you have and meeting new women and getting connected outside of the Dames to other potential power partners and people and clients that you need. And then our fourth sphere is about learning. And so that's really learning and problem solving, honestly. Yeah. So we have our mastermind calls for the 250K, 500K, and 7-figure level. We have our next level skills trainings on all kinds of personal and professional growth. And then we have our $1 million power hours facilitated by our Dames of Influence who run 7-figure businesses. All of that wrapped up in a great membership site, online communities, and just an amazing community of women who are here to serve one another as we grow and as we go through the craziness of this life and this running business together.
Awesome. Well, it is a game changer, and I'm super grateful for you. I'm grateful for the Dames. Is there anything else? I know that you have a meeting coming up. Is there anything else you want to jump into or say? Is that it?
No, I would just say, visit thedames.co if you're interested in learning about us, and make sure that you yourself, if you're a leader, that you're looking at yourself first and foremost, and really looking at the areas and the habits that you have and seeing if they're serving you, seeing if your coping mechanisms are healthy. We didn't even talk about anger, which was a great one that I dealt with a couple years ago in life. There's so many gray areas we could talk about, but you're amazing, and don't be shameful about these things. Just deal with them, and deal with them by eliminating them.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so just real quick, thank you for joining us. We're streaming live on KUHSdenver.com. You can find me at tastelifenutrition.com or Taste Life Nutrition on any of the social media channels. We're doing group coaching. We're doing all of our meetings virtually, so reach out. Happy to answer any questions. You can do an assessment online where I'll reach out to you personally, and we'll chat about stuff that's going on with you. So we are here every Thursday, 10 a.m., and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much, Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.